Welcome back to Beyond the Boundary Road. I'm Jadine Croft and I'm here with our language researcher, Des Crump. Welcome, Des.
Oh, hello again, Jadine.
It's great for you to be with us. So, education. Regardless of who you are, it is essential to being successful in life. It is something that we all must have an understanding, the world we live in, and it's also an institution that aims to foster our personal learning. Today, we're going to explore the educational system and see how language revitalization fits in with that. So Des, what sort of role does educational institutions like TAFE and universities, what sort of role do they play in the revitalization of language?
Well, they play an important role because the community training, particularly offered through TAFE, enables the community to develop the skills and the language and the knowledge to become teachers or assistants in the teaching of language in the schools. So, for example, Bachelor Institute in Northern Territory, quite a number of Queensland Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander language workers have gone over there and undertaken a Certificate 3 or 4, even the Associate Diploma levels, just so that they've got the skills and the qualifications to go out and work with language in their communities. Then some of the universities are coming on board to help train up not just linguists, and we have about 8, maybe 9 Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander linguists in Australia, but also training up of teachers. So, for example, in my study, I was able to do a Masters of Indigenous Language Education through Uni of Sydney, and so that gave me a teaching qualification to help me not only, I guess, interpret and research language, but also be able to develop curriculum and teaching materials and also teach in the classroom.
Yeah, so should universities provide scholarships and tenures to encourage First Nation peoples to re-immerse with and reconnect with the language?
I think so. Just to, I guess there's a lot of people out there with that language knowledge, and a lot of them are self-trained and self-educated, and it'd be good if they can be supported to get that formal recognition of their knowledge and their skills and all the learning and work they've done in the communities, and even if it means giving them some sort of credit towards a formal qualification.
Yeah, so should the elders from the local communities, should they be rewarded for their efforts to rekindle their respective languages to the community?
I think so, especially if they're teaching in a classroom situation. I think they need to be paid as a teacher aide or even a community language teacher. A couple of other states, such as Western Australia, have actually developed a community language teacher position so that it's paid accordingly. It's seen as an assistant teaching position, and it's recognised in the community. It's recognised by the Board of Teacher Registration as well.
Yeah, so why do you think Queensland is so far behind other states in terms of the revitalisation of Aboriginal languages?
I think there's still a little bit of a carryover from the Protection Act and the impact that had on the loss of language and the loss of culture. But also, Queensland has only just come on board in terms of an Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander language curriculum. They haven't got a languages policy as such. And without having that sort of policy framework or curriculum framework, it makes it very difficult for Queensland schools and communities to work together and see language taught in schools, whilst New South Wales, a little bit further down the track, they've had their language policy, language curriculum for nearly 15 years now.
Yeah, so how do you think we can reduce the language gap in First Nation communities?
Well, I think by having language in the schools, it's been shown through some of the trials and the research in New South Wales schools in particular that by learning a language, it's helping the young Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students not only understand their own language, but helping them understand how standard Australian English works. So it's improving their English literacy results on the tests such as NAPLAN, and it's giving them that understanding of how language is created, how words are built and sentences are made.
Yeah, so can you tell us about some newly invented words about the classrooms?
Yeah, certainly. There's a couple of new words that were created in the Gamilaroi and Yawallaroi language program because they were finding in the classroom they needed to be able to use everyday objects, and so one of those being a book. And so the language word which comes from Aboriginal English for paper is beaver. And so to create book, the new word they came up with was beaver, which means many papers, i.e. a book. And then to write on a book, in a book, they've come up with a new word for pen or pencil, and it's wee owl. So wee owl traditionally was the porcupine quill, and the logic being, back in traditional English days, they wrote letters with a feather quill, and so they extended that a little bit further and thought, well, we'll write with our own quill over here, so we have a porcupine quill. So our new word for a pen or a pencil is going to be wee owl.
Wow, very insightful. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Des. It's been great having you.
No, thank you again.
So next week, we'll be looking at how language is transmitted into virtual stories. Don't go away, we'll be back after the break.